Welcome to About the Winelands. In this show, we will be chatting to leaders, influencers, wine producers, restaurants, and other role players. Tune in every week for our latest episode. You will find us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram TV, Spotify, Apple Podcast, and Google Podcast. Hi everyone and welcome back to About the Winelands. Today I'm speaking to Gerhard van der Walt. Gerhard is the CEO of Perdeberg Winery. Welcome to About the Winelands, Gerhard.
Thank you, Will. It's a great pleasure to be with you this morning.
No, it's our pleasure to have you and thank you for taking the time. I know you guys are busy.
Yeah, of course, the world is upside down and we have to deal with what we've been given. So we are making all sorts of plans to see this through and make sure that we're continuing in business, but it certainly is a busy time.
So Gerhard, what would be interesting is if you could tell our listeners how you got involved in, a bit about yourself and how you became involved in the wine industry.
Sure. It started many years ago. So after I completed my articles, I decided to leave auditing. And I started as a financial accountant in the old Stellenbosch Farmers Winery. That was 1989. So I guess you can call me a veteran of 31 years in the wine business. Through starting at SFW, I've worked in different departments, finance, and then later on into corporate strategy. Eventually, it took me to the US, where I launched Savannah Cider in the US for SFW. But at the same time, that's when SFW and Distillers Corporation formed Distel. So I really went over under the Distel banner. And then shortly after that, they asked me to run the European operations for Distel, sales marketing operation from London. And that's where I spent a number of years before I returned back to Cape Town, back into a strategy role at the head office of Distel in Stellenbosch. So I left Distel, I think it was just 2 or 3 years after returning back from overseas. And for the last 10 years, I've been at Perdeberg, where I'm the CEO and looking after the business development for the company. So yeah, that's from a business point of view. But just from a personal point of view, I can tell you that I've got 5 kids, all from the same wife, and the youngest is 12.
Wow.
So I need to work for at least 10 more years, but I really don't mind because I think the wine industry is great fun, and I love going to work every day.
Where in the US were you stationed?
I lived in Boston, so we took the family over to Boston. We were there for quite a short period of time because the merger of SFW and Distillers dictated the process, and I had to after about 8 months, I think 9 months, I had to move to London. So it was a short stay in the US, but utterly enjoyable.
Okay, interesting. So Perdeberg Wines, can you share a bit of the history of the cellar and the winery?
Sure. Well, we started in 1941. So next year, Perdeberg will be what you can call an octogenarian in years, but we are going to be as fit and as nimble and with it as a 21-year-old because we are still very innovative and progressive in our thinking and the way that we drive the business. But it started in 1941 with a person by the name of Jan Rousseau, who got together with a couple of farmers in the area near the Perdeberg or Paarl, and he decided to form a cooperative and appoint their own winemaker to basically achieve better pricing for themselves on a collective basis. So we adopted the name Perdeberg as we are at the foothills of the Paardeberg mountain. There's a bit of an anomaly. If you just look at our logo, we have a zebra. So just to clear that up, you know, the Dutch, when they looked at these quaggas walking on the Perdeberg mountain, they said that's one wilde paard, one wild horse. Yeah, so we decided to keep the zebra, and yeah, so that's really something that distinguishes us, make us very recognizable. You'll see that through all our products and everywhere in our media. So since 1941, Perdeberg has been quite innovative. We, I think, was one of the first people to really appoint a viticulturist in those days. But I think we really were put on the map by somebody by the name of Joseph Huskinson, who was a winemaker at Perdeberg for 38 years. And he was trained under Günter Brösel at Niederberg. So he brought a whole lot of knowledge to Perdeberg and really, you know, put us on the map in terms of winemaking. And then from there on, yeah, it just progressed. Nowadays, we are what we call a group of companies, where we have two facilities that process grapes. One at Perdeberg in the Paarl area, and then the other one at Bottlerij in Stellenbosch. We're also renting another facility from Winelands in Paarl. So we have got quite a diverse and big business. We have 32 shareholders, so all producers from the area, and they supply us with grapes on a contractual basis. But Perdeberg is very brand focused. So what we've done is we've invested a tremendous amount in barrel space and small batch processing. So a lot of our brands are managed like an estate, if I can call it that way, from the vineyard, very intense vineyard management, right through to the cellar. So we have brands, we sell also wines to other brand owners. And then we've got some distribution company in South Africa. So it's quite a diverse organization at this point in time.
It sounds fascinating. Have you guys followed the trend in the 90s by changing from a members cooperative to a private company then as well?
Yeah, I think we were probably a bit later than the rest. It was 2012 when we made the conversion.
Mm-hmm.
But that was just really a statutory conversion. I think in essence, or yeah, we were already operating as a market-driven organization before that.
Okay.
But yeah, I think that was the actual date that we made the conversion.
So would you accept grapes also that are not from your shareholders or buy-in, or does everything come from your historically the farms that started Perdeberg?
Yeah, I think we've outgrown our normal supply base. So we do contract grapes in as well. But when it comes to our brands in particular, we're obviously very fussy, and we really just make sure that those are from the area. And we'll talk maybe hopefully a little bit later about our winemaking philosophy and how we approach things.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I think most of it is from the area.
So talking about that, I mean, you guys have expanded into more than just a winery. People can actually come there and experience things when they come to Paardeberg. So if a guest come to you, what can they expect? Or, when you are fully open for guests, what experiences do you provide? Yeah.
Well, when we are fully open, which is hopefully not too long from now, with the lockdown hopefully coming to an end soon, you can come to do some wine tasting. We've got a fantastic modern facility that we revamped, I think, about 3-4 years ago, where you can do wine pairings. We've got some interesting stuff there. We've done some chocolate wine pairings. We've done some different Shannon expressions, a whole variety of kind of trying to be unique to our environment and what we produce, kind of tastings. We have a restaurant. It's called Eat at Perdeberg. It's run by Rob Hahn. Rob is actually a well-known guy in the area, but some interesting information about Rob is that he was actually one of the the chefs that were selected at President Mandela's inauguration ceremony at the Union buildings. And
Wow.
a few of them were handpicked, and they did a private function for him. Yeah, so Rob's got some history there. So yeah, if you want to meet the guy who cooked for Mr. Mandela, then you're welcome to come meet him at Perdeberg. There's a photo of him as well, you know, of the event. And yeah, so we've got a restaurant. It's really a family-orientated restaurant, so very easy kind of environment. Lots of open space outside where the children can run around a little bit and the parents can relax. We've got a jungle gym, and sometimes we also put up a jumping castle for the kids. So yeah, it's quite safe, kid friendly, and parents can relax. So yeah, good food, great wine, and then yeah, there's also some venues as well where we can do functions, and I can maybe elaborate a little bit on that if you want.
Yeah, I'd love to hear, but I see you do weddings and other events. So I'd love to hear what you actually offer. You know, it's always nice for people when they're looking for event venues to know what is in the area.
We've got a function hall, which can, so it's got a beautiful chandelier, a roof, chandeliers all over. The capacity is 150 for a wedding. So yeah, it's got some character as well. Beautiful wooden doors that was part of the cellar from the word go. So some old wood there, and it's got a lovely view. So a balcony as well, where you can look out over the vineyards. That's weddings, and then of course seminars. So for seminars, we can probably put in a few more people in terms of the seating, and it's quite affordable as well. So you know, if people are interested, they're more than welcome to contact us and explore the packages that we've got for them. We have an area called the Kwacha. The Kwacha is a horseshoe-shaped tasting room where we can do bespoke tastings with the winemaker. You just book beforehand, and we can do a very specific tasting for you, and a far more in-depth for the connoisseur who wants to maybe just delve in a little bit deeper into the wines and the way that we make them. And then we'd also do little workshop or provide workshop venues for companies that want to maybe do team building and just break away with a small group to strategize, or whatever the reason they want to just hire an outside venue. And we can couple with that, of course, some fun activities. So if you want to do the team build and a wine pairing, we will do that. And we'll do that in our dryland room, which is a modern boardroom facility. Yeah, and then of course, what we're trying to do from time to time is also have some fun events. So Perdeberg, I think it was I better think now. It was about 10 years ago, 9 years ago, that we started with what we call the Family Festival. We actually called it the October Festival because it was held in October, but there was no beer. But yeah, so the Family Festival is where we draw in a lot of people, and we basically just have music and eats and just a fun family day where people can relax and become very popular. So we've continued with that every year. And the Family Festival, hopefully we can hold one again this year. I'm just a bit concerned about when we will unlock for that kind of thing. But yeah, certainly. So we have that. We've expanded that. We've done the Pinotage and Biltong Festival at Perdeberg. We started last year with the Chenin Blanc Festival. And maybe just on that point, you know, Perdeberg is very well known for Chenin Blanc. It's just such a beautiful grape that is suited to our area. And that's why, you know, we call the function hall even the Chenin Blanc Hall. And we also have this Chenin Blanc Festival that we now plan to run annually.
Are these festivals organized by yourselves as principal? In other words, these are festivals that you actually originate and organize yourselves?
Yeah, the Family Festival is a self-organized festival. The Pinotage and Biltong was a festival owned by an outside party. But the Chenin Blanc one, we started with using a third party just to facilitate, but we do plan to continue with that ourselves going forward. And just to make it a bit more, how can I put it, accessible for the wider wine public, we've decided to draw in other wine farms as well. So for the Chenin Blanc Festival, we'll certainly invite other Chenin producers to come and spend a day with us and also have their table where they will show their Chenin. You know, for us, it's important to show the capability and diversity of Chenin that our country can offer. You know, we've registered the trademark Home of Chenin Blanc. So we do see ourselves as the home.
Very
But
clever.
we don't mind sharing our home with other Chenin producers because we think that, you know, if everybody starts talking about Chenin Blanc, it's got lots of potential to become one of South Africa's signature wine varieties, next to Pinotage, of course. Yeah, so we do events, and then we've got plenty of plans just to extend the experience for visitors to our facility. It's very safe. It's completely fenced off, the whole property. Good access control, and of course nowadays, very safe. Also with regards to virus, if you're worried about viruses, you know, we follow all the right protocols and make sure that people are safe as possible.
Yeah, which is obviously important in today's environment. You mentioned the Chenin Blanc, which brings us to the wines, and you know, this is obviously the most important thing. So tell us a bit about the wines that you are producing and also your winemaking philosophy.
Sure. So I think maybe the one thing that we need to understand about our area and our wines that you will find in our brands is that it is pretty much influenced by dry land vineyards, so unirrigated vineyards, which we have a lot of. About 60% of our vineyards are not irrigated. And what we've done is we've really owned that platform as well. So if you look at our ranges, I can quickly speak to that. You know, we have what we call the classic range. And then we have above that, the vineyard collection range. And then above that, the dry land collection. Each one of those ranges will have a component of dry land vineyard wine in it. And we strongly believe that these unirrigated vineyards really produce the best fruit. Now, I remember one day also watching a TV program on the BBC where Dan Jager, who was the buyer for one of the big supermarkets, remarked, we all know that the best wines are made from dry land vineyards. And I certainly concur with that because it's small berries and the fruit is concentrated. So you have a deep color. You've got lovely fruit flavors because, yeah, the flesh to skin ratio, I think, is what makes the difference there. Maybe unlike highly irrigated vineyards, where you might find that the wines are not as deep in color and maybe a little bit less thinner on the palate. So dry land is important for us, and you know, we really believe that is what distinguishes our wines. We have a viticulturist that, of course, manages the vineyards. We classify all these vineyards into their quality, their ability based on terroir, history. As you know, we've got long history, so we keep good records, and therefore, over time, we've worked out exactly which wines, which vineyards, which slopes are producing the best wines, and we've, you know, obviously matched those and mapped it to our brands across the quality spectrum. Lots of hard work in the vineyards. We do very sustainable kind of farming. You know, it's dry land vineyards, a lot of it, and we do cover crops to protect the soils. We also use the ladybirds and some other what do you call it, gogakis, that actually eat the vitrus, what do you call it, lois. I'm sorry, I'm struggling with English here. But yeah, so we try and do things right in the vineyards, but at the end of the day, you know, it shows in your wines. And then from a wine team point of view, I mean, we've got a whole group of winemakers headed up by Albertus Lowe, who's also been in the industry for many, many years. He's got red winemaker, white winemaker, and a small cellar winemaker. And they all work together. You know, I think one can safely say a lot of the wine's quality is made in the vineyards. And then in the cellar, of course, you have an opportunity to enhance it or destroy it. And I have to say that our team has done extremely well over years. So if you go look at our website and the accolades that we've received for our wines, it really is a long, long list. I mean, I remember just shortly after we launched the Dryland collection, completely made from unirrigated vineyards. We won the best producer of the year at the Michelangelo, and it was mostly those wines
Wow.
that really came through. And it was just, I think, 2013 or 2014, somewhere there. Yeah, so I really, if you want to ask me, you know, what really distinguishes us is the fact that we have got dryland components to our wines. And also maybe another interesting thing is that we do try and bring in very unique varietals and to try and be a little bit different. So we had a straight Cinsault. We believe it's one of the only dryland bush vine Cinsauts. We have a Cinsault Rosé. We've got a Malbec in our range. We've got Grenache Blanc. These are all wines that we put in our let's call it the innovative space, and the vineyard collection is the range that houses these wines. But then of course we have got also interesting stuff in our dryland and classic ranges. We do MCC sparkling, Chenin based sparkling, and also Pinot Noir Chardonnay based sparkling. Yeah, so innovation is very important. We recently also launched wine in a can at the very basic level. So we've got a range called the Soft Smooth Red range. Yeah, so maybe let me stop there for a minute.
Well, I'd like to ask you about the can wine, because that seems to be something that's going to become a trend. Do you think it'll become a trend? Will it just be a fad? I see the Michelangelo awards are going to now actually reward, or they're going to have the same thing for canned wines now that they have for normal wines in terms of their ratings and stuff.
Yeah. Look, I mean, if I have to say personally, I mean, you know, I really do like to drink wine out of a glass. But I do think we need to recognize that there's a young new generation coming up that you know, they have different conventions and different ways of thinking about things. And yeah, so we've really launched our wine in a can for that reason. So we are targeting young people across the spectrum, and we really want to, particularly in South Africa, draw also from the underdeveloped wine market. So you know, we really need more people to adopt wine and bring them into the wine category. So you know, it's early days for us, but if I just look at the reports around the world, and South Africa does seem to follow trends often. The US, for instance, has just run out of cans, and they said it's not because, you know, there was a problem with can production. The problem was that they didn't anticipate the demand. So the consumer demand was of such a nature that they couldn't supply because of a can shortage. And we find everywhere around the world, it's about sustainability as well. You know, people want to move to carbon-friendly packaging. I think convenience is a big factor. You know, weight if you're traveling on an airline, and I think there's just so many applications for wine in a can. But the important thing, I think, to remember about wine in a can is, you know, you mustn't see it as a cheap wine alternative. We really need to put the very best wines we can also in the can. Because yeah, it's recruiting new consumers into the category, and you can't do that with wines that don't stand up to the challenge.
Well, that's very interesting. You're talking about the younger market, and I think the wine drinkers, the young market for wine drinkers are now the millennials really. And, you know, they're also interested in things like you said, sustainability, but also things about additives in the wines, like, you know, vegan, the whole idea of vegan wines and stuff like that. Is this something that you guys are addressing? How do you find, you know, that issue?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for us to go completely vegan friendly does mean that we have to make some adjustments in the cellar. But what we can at this point already tell you is that all our red wines are vegan friendly. And we've actually advertised that on some of our products, so that the classic range. We've incorporated the vegan sticker on the back of the label. We have done some trials on the white wines to try and move that over to vegan friendly. We, in all probability, will do so from 2021. For us, it was very important to keep quality. So changing your process to stay completely vegan friendly mustn't mean that you compromise on quality. And that's why we haven't moved already this year, but next year the white wine should, particularly for those branded ranges, be vegan friendly as well. It is quite big. If you look at the overseas market, again, the trends there, the Scandinavian markets are very, very focused on vegan friendly, organic, and that kind of thing. So yeah, we are very much trying to also speak to the vegan and sustainability audience.
Well, that's awesome. So we're talking about the Scandinavian markets and stuff like that. Where are your wines sold? And what is your, I mean, are you primarily exported? You sell in the local market? How does that mix work?
Yeah, so we are very much an export-led organization. So most of our wines, our turnover is derived from the overseas market, which of course at the moment is standing us in good stead. The rand that is quite weak, so export profitability is quite good. And the fact that we can continue to do business in the international market right now, although we can't do it in the South African market. But we already embarked, I think I mentioned earlier on, you know, that we are a market-driven organization. So we started exploring international markets, sure, a long time ago already, 2009, or even before that, we were in the international market, but we really stepped it up. You know, we've invested heavily in people. So we've beefed up our human capital infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And at this point in time, we sell all over the world. So from China, Malaysia, Hong Kong, we sell to Russia, in Africa, Kenya, Belgium, Holland, Germany, Sweden, Finland, Norway, UK. We do Canada, US. Yeah, you know, all different kind of markets. We've invested a lot of effort in exploring the African market, so there's a lot of time and money going into that, and also the Far East, so China, and then the US. Europe, we do good business in, and we continue to support those markets. But it is a little bit more mature, and we think that there's a lot of value to be derived from the US in particular, albeit that it's a tough market. It's really not an easy market. Many people have tried over many years, and it's not a walk in the park. You know, the Americans are complicated. They've got a 3-tier system, and you've got to get through all that complexity and find the right distributor.
Interesting. It's also interesting that I've spoken to a few places who've mentioned the African market, and it seems that there's quite a bit of growth and also maybe a premium in price in exporting to Africa at the moment.
Yeah, I think, at the moment, right now, I think worldwide pricing is a little bit under pressure, unfortunately.
Yeah, of course.
We've seen, particularly in France and Spain, the guys have actually resorted to approaching their government to distill wines just to get rid of surplus. But I think, yeah, generally speaking, your on-trade is where you can achieve the better pricing. And in Africa, there's a lot of tourism, a lot of on-trade facilities where you can achieve good pricing. But there's also a good market at the entry level. So at the moment, I think that side of the business, unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on where you are, is growing, at the expense of the more pricier wines. But yeah, there's great opportunity in Africa. If we look at the industry players in South Africa, they've really invested in Africa over a long time as well, recognizing that the predictions of Africa being a potential economic powerhouse. So we do hope that that's true. As I said, we're putting a lot of time and effort into it, and we're already seeing the benefits coming through.
Interesting. I see on your website you also have a wine club. Can you explain a bit more about that?
Yes, indeed. The good news is that there are no joining fees. So all you have to do to get yourself active as a member is to buy 12 bottles or more of our wines, and you can then activate your membership automatically. And then thereafter, we only require you to buy 6 cases per annum to keep your membership active. If you do, you can get 10% off your wine purchases at the classic range. And for higher up, you can get 15% off the vineyard and the dryland and our iconic wine ranges. In addition, you can get a free tasting for you and 3 friends every year. Receive 10% discount on venue hires for weddings, parties. And then you get invitations to exclusive wine club events where we will do wine tastings with a winemaker, educational kind of tastings. And then, of course, free delivery to all the main centers in South Africa if you buy more than 1,000 Rand worth of wine.
That's awesome. So if you're planning a wedding this year, it's a good thing to, before you buy the ring, to actually join the wine club first, because you're going to save all over.
Absolutely. So are you planning a wedding, Will?
I don't think so. Not yet. Not again.
Let me know. Let me know.
I'll let you know if I hear of somebody. Gerhard, the big thing obviously at the moment is the coronavirus, and it's forced all of us to rethink our business models. So do you have any changes or new ideas in mind?
Yeah, look, I think, as we are right now engaged in conversation across the electronic platform, that's clearly become a new way of working. People are, connecting in different ways. But you're right. I mean, the whole Corona thing has slowed down the world, and people are reflecting personally and also from a business point of view. Am I busy with the right model? Where do I want to be? What do I want to achieve? And it's been no different for us. I think the main strategy that we have, I mentioned already, is that we are an export-led organization. And we've invested in that channel exponentially. And we believe that this virus has really proved for us, that is where we should continue to focus. It is a big world, and it's a diverse market. So, the opportunities are endless. And if you just look at profitability, it certainly is by far the best profitable channel. Now, it doesn't mean that you're not going to participate in South Africa. I mean, just to point out, and maybe I didn't emphasize that earlier, we do have a distribution company in South Africa called PV Liquor Merchants that does the distribution for our own brands, but also for other brands. So we do distribution for brands like Neertlingshof and Slanghoek and others. So yeah, I think we are committed to the local market, but the fact that we are export led in our strategy is a positive. And for us, this time in history has really proved it, that it's not a bad place to be. But then, of course, we moved to a virtual world, and we've realized that there's so much you can do electronically. I mean, we launched this wine in a can that I spoke about earlier during lockdown, and we had a virtual launch. So we had a whole audience of media people zooming in with Trevor Keane, a bartender, who was actually bartender of the year in 2019. Making wine cocktails for us, and we did it all online. And the next day there was a whole lot of media exposure based on this. So we're participating in international wine shows in the next couple of weeks, business-to-business wine shows, where you will be, your wines will go over to the potential buyers. And you can do wine tastings and discuss your wines across the globe, but doing it via Zoom or some other platform. So I think, yeah, definitely, you can really rethink your business in terms of your cost structures, travel costs, that kind of thing. And I think the other big learning for us was that social platforms are really the communication medium going forward. We all know that. And we've already invested in that for quite a number of years, and we've escalated that investment, and it's paying off. So, another learning is e-commerce and e-platforms for marketing and communicating with your consumers on e-platforms. That's the future. So get smart at that, get fit in terms of your electronic communication and engagement with your consumers. That's the way that they work. I know, we all wish that at some point in time we can just chuck the phone in the bin because we spend so much time with it. But it is unfortunately the way that people nowadays are going to communicate. Well, I say unfortunately, but that's the reality. And we better tie into it.
I think you're right. I think also there's so much opportunity. People, I think, always think back to the good old days before these things were there. But actually, if we had these problems we have now, we wouldn't be able to do anything. So I think technology is more of a blessing than a curse than we realize. And it's been like that for every new generation. There's been technology that the older generation didn't like, but the new generation found as a blessing, right? I honestly would rather prefer to drive around than to hop around on a horse or any of the older things. But what I'm wondering is the whole issue of direct to consumer, right? Understand if we're export driven, it's more business to business sale. What about inside South Africa, direct to consumer business, and also even internationally? Because the one thing about technology and the internet, it actually cuts out the middleman. Yeah. I mean, that's been proven by Amazon and those things. How do you see that play out in wine distribution over time?
Absolutely. I think consumers want to have information about their product, and they want to be able to go back to the source immediately. So I mean, for instance, we've explored also opportunities like the artificial, what do you call it? I forget the terminology.
Virtual reality.
Virtual reality. Thank you very much. So, if you just engage those things, I mean, we've got the technology devices that can handle all these things nowadays. So your communication to your consumers is direct, it's quick, it's interactive, and it can be real time, and you can update it real time. So I think you're 100% correct. I'm unfortunately, I'm of the old school, so I can't even think of all the potential applications of this. But it's the one thing that I've realized more and more is that you need to get smart people engaged in your business that can drive these platforms and speak directly to consumers. Now, even if it goes through the channel in which they buy the wine is not direct. When they engage with your product, they want direct contact. It's that personal thing that makes a difference. So yeah, you know, people also the platforms that people use to communicate are powerful things as well. You know, so when you give somebody a great experience, it is known very quickly by many people. If you give them a bad experience, it's the same. You know, so you really need to be engaged, I think is the word, and real time engagement.
I think that is the big thing about technology. Does not really, it exposes us for who we really are. If we have a bad product, it will expose us. If we have a good product, it will expose us, you know, positively. And where you're right is that I think the one thing that has changed is that as an exporter, you now need to actually communicate with your consumer, whereas before you could have gotten away by just communicating with your distributor and let them actually talk to the consumer. I think that is maybe one of the main changes, what I'm hearing from you.
Absolutely right.
So Gerhard, it's very interesting. If you look back over the years, I mean, you had a very interesting wine journey from, you know, South Africa, then to the States, and then to London, and then back to South Africa, and then, you know, you went to Perdeberg, and now you're on this journey. What is the most important thing that you've learned from your wine journey?
Sure. Well, I think the one thing I've learned is that I shouldn't stop learning. You know, just when you think that you understand the business, it gets a bit more interesting and a bit more complicated. But if I really have to, you know, say the one thing that has stood out for me and that has really made a huge difference in my experience is it's all about relationships. You know, a relationship is something that will carry you through when it really gets tough. And we've seen that now in the past couple of weeks as well. You know, people want to do business with people that they can trust, that they relate to, and that engages with them. So, you know, that's the one thing that one must never ever neglect in the wine business. It's a social product. You know, it's a product that makes it easy for us to engage with one another. But it's really about relationships, and a lot of time and effort needs to go into building those, and it's something that you establish over time, but you continue to work on that. Yeah, maybe if I can add one more thing, you know, at the business end, it's also about distribution. You know, route to market is so important. I've learned that you can have the best product in the world and the best message in the world, but without route to market, you're dead. You know, so you know, build those relationships, those distribution networks, those customer base relationships, and that's gonna just carry you through.
Well, amazing. Yeah, that's true. The platform that you to get your product or your message out is extremely important. So yes, you're right. So can you sum this all up with your very own or your favorite wine quote?
Oh, okay. Well, I think I'll make it pretty much about wine. And what I will say is, you know, a wine's beauty is in the eye of the beholder. If it works for you, it is a good wine. You know, I think we need to embrace the fact that there's a lot of diversity in our wine offering in South Africa. And we've got different terroirs and different expressions of it. And each one of those brands have got some consumer that is going to love it, you know, and at the end of the day, if they like your wine, then it's a good wine.
Oh, awesome. Gerhard, thank you very much for your time. Just as a last thing, if people want to get hold of you guys, or they want to come and visit you, how do they get hold of you?
Easy information, of course, is found on our website, so www.perdeberg.co.za. we've incidentally just revamped the platform, so it should be quite fresh. A lot of information there, and also email contacts, etc. Otherwise, they can of course phone the cellar. Our telephone details are on there as well. And yeah, we happy to engage with anybody that would take the time to engage with our products. Maybe come and visit us. We'd love that.
Oh, that's awesome. So we'll put all the links down in the description of, where this is distributed so that people can get that. So I'm just looking at the description below. And Gerhard, thank you very, very much. I know you're busy and you took a long time, and you gave us quite a bit of information, which is great. And I think our listeners will enjoy it. So thanks for spending the time.
Thank you very much. Well, it's been my pleasure, and I do wish you well, and whoever listens to this, please stay safe, but also stay positive.
I think that is a very important thing that you just said there. Stay positive, right? Because we need to keep our mental and our physical strength. Thank you. Thank you, Gerhard.
My pleasure. All the best.
Thank you for supporting our show. If you would like to get more exposure for your business, please have a look at our sponsorship options. Thanks again for supporting About the Winelands. Please follow us on YouTube and on our social media channels. All details and links are in the description.